Hello, I'm Monique Bork. I'm with the Oregon Secretary of State's Office of Small Business Assistance. Today with me, I have Trevor Leahy, Small Business Ombudsman with the Office of Small Business Assistance. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that small business owners really need to know about the process of getting business licenses. Welcome, Trevor.
Hi, Monique. Thanks. So in Oregon, business licenses might be required based on what you're doing and where you're doing it. It's up to each business to know what services they're going to be providing, and often those services, if regulated by a state agency, may require a business license from that state agency. So businesses need to research what they're going to do and where they're going to do it. Those details are a good thing to document in any business plan.
Okay. Who regulates business licenses?
So agencies that regulate business licenses often regulate an industry as a form of consumer protection. Some common agencies might be the Construction Contractors Board, who regulate the construction industry in Oregon, the Department of Agriculture, who inspects facilities for food safety and licensed commercial kitchens. The Oregon Medical Board makes sure that physicians are licensed to practice medicine in Oregon. Each of those agencies has their own licensing requirements and regulate an industry based on who is licensed and who is not. Some cities have local business licenses and might require businesses operating within city limits to get licensed at the city level. And that lets cities keep track of which businesses are operating within city limits and allows cities to regulate to some extent what happens within their own city limits.
How do I find out what agency regulates my industry?
A good way to find out which agency is by checking Oregon's business license directory. State agencies that have a license and regulate certain industries are required under law to contribute that information to Oregon's business license directory. If you haven't seen the business license directory already, I'd recommend you go visit it at licenseinfo.oregon.gov. At that page, you can search by keyword for phrases that are relevant to your business. So you can search for taxidermy, you can search for medical transport, and it'll tell you if it thinks that there is a relevant license. And then it's up to you as a business owner to read through those descriptions and determine whether that license applies to you based on the services you plan to offer. Again, that website is licenseinfo.oregon.gov. And if there is a license that is required, that license should be displayed there.
Earlier, you mentioned local business licenses. What's the difference between a trade license and a local business license?
Trade licenses regulate what you do and usually have that element of consumer protection that I mentioned. Trade licenses are there to ensure public safety, whether someone is licensed as a hairdresser, an architect, a bartender, a dentist, anything where a business owner or a worker might need to receive training, demonstrate competency, and could potentially be held accountable if any type of damage occurs. Local licenses are developed by each city that chooses to have a business license. Often they give the cities a way to know who's doing business and make sure that cities can keep track of market data and not flood the market with a certain type of business. Uh, each city likely has different municipal codes. It's a good idea to plan where services will be offered in the event that your business is going to offer services in multiple areas. If you're going to offer services across multiple cities, you might need to carry multiple business licenses. it's a good idea to research that and plan for that contingency so that you can determine operating costs in advance of starting your business.
Do I need different licenses in order to sell in multiple locations across the state and across the country?
Maybe. Oregon doesn't have a general retail license for online sales. If you're going to be selling a product from a single location and shipping it across Oregon or even across the country, you don't need a license to do that unless you're selling something that is controlled by the state, such as alcohol, marijuana, tobacco. Those are all regulated items, and selling those, especially by mail, can be problematic. But if you're selling items that are not regulated, such as clothing, jewelry, prints of photography, most pieces of art, those are largely not regulated, and you don't need a trade license to sell those. Your customers can be anywhere, and you can ship without being considered to be doing business in those areas. Where it gets confusing is when you're shipping to other states. Most other states in the country have sales tax, and those states might require someone to pay sales tax. It is a good idea as a business to do research and find out what each state requires of you as a retailer selling to someone in a state where sales tax might apply. And it might be as simple as passing that sales tax on to the customer and then you paying it, or the customer setting up a payment to that state. Oregon doesn't have the answer because Oregon does not have a sales tax. So you can slowly do research and find out what each state requires. Make sure that you're in compliance with other states' tax laws.
How can the public get more information?
The best place to get more information is at licenseinfo.oregon.gov. That's where the Business Express license directory is found. State agencies must submit their information about their license to that website. My team, the Office of Small Business Assistance, makes sure that state agencies are contributing to the license directory by sending notices and oftentimes engaging in conversations with licensing agencies to make sure that they know that they must be compliant. So businesses with questions should check the license directory first. If they think that their industry is regulated, I would encourage them to reach out to agencies that they might be involved with. And if they still can't find out, I would encourage them to contact our team by visiting www.oregon.gov/small business and getting in touch with me or a member of my team to help navigate the way through Oregon regulations. As far as local business licenses, it's best to check directly with the city or the county if you're not sure. Oftentimes, you might find that a property where you're going to be running a business might be one or two addresses outside city limits, so a city business license doesn't apply. But at that point, it would be totally appropriate to check with the county to find out what county regulations kick in once you step outside city limits. Other resources for help are Oregon's small business development centers, which are located statewide in community colleges. They offer free business advice and oftentimes can help you connect with other resources at the local level. Businesses can also connect with a mentor through an organization called SCORE, which is a nonprofit organization driven by volunteers who act as one-on-one mentors with businesses specific to industry. Formerly, SCORE would assign a mentor within Oregon, But since SCORE has switched to mostly virtual consultations, you are more likely to get a mentor who is relatable to your industry. And that might be nationwide. You won't be limited to mentors in Oregon. You might get someone who is a better fit for you, regardless of the state that they're in. We also recommend people contact local chambers of commerce. Even if you aren't a member of your chamber of commerce, they are a great resource for finding out what other businesses are in the community and finding out what local steps might be involved that aren't readily available by research.
What are 3 really important things that you want to communicate to viewers?
The first, registering with the Secretary of State is not the same as getting a business license. That is a misconception, and we are trying very hard to take back the term business license, because registering with the Secretary of State is just reserving the name of the business. It is not giving anyone permission to operate in a trade or a location. It simply reserves the name. So remember, getting a business license is not something you do with the Secretary of State. The second, I mentioned before, there's no blanket business license covering the entire state of Oregon. Mobile businesses serving multiple locations may need to carry many business licenses, and that is why it is so important to plan your service area so that you know what costs might be involved by going from city to city to city. The third, if you are running a business from your home, you might contact the local government and ask about something called home occupations. Home occupations ensure that the presence of a business in a residence doesn't disrupt the neighborhood. And so many businesses now operate from homes, and largely the public doesn't know it. But local codes still apply. And even if you don't think your business is going to disrupt the neighborhood, the city and the county are the ones you need to tell about your business and prove to them that you are not going to disrupt the neighborhood through having a bunch of cars parked there, through having customers showing up at the door. Those are all things that are factors in maintaining the integrity of a neighborhood and could be viewed as business disruptions. Some cities are very easy to comply with these regulations. Some cities and counties are extremely difficult and expensive. And the only way you're going to know about home occupations is by contacting the appropriate authority.
What's the most important takeaway message you want viewers to have after they've looked at this interview?
The most important thing is to slow down and do research. If you're starting your business for the first time, it is complicated to start a business. Chances are you have a passion that you are invested in. When you start a business and turn your passion into a moneymaker, you get to do your passion. You still have to run a business. And oftentimes there is a lot of regulation and bureaucracy involved in that. It can be no fun. And the best way to handle that is to spend time researching and educating and learning what resources there are and planning for the unexpected so that when the unexpected happens, you are prepared to deal with it and you've taken into account contingencies and you can mitigate that unexpected thing. So researching business licenses is a huge part of it. And that way you know which agencies you're going to be working with. And oftentimes you can start developing a relationship with those agencies so that you view them as a resource and a collaborator versus someone who is going to come knocking on your door with bad news. So that would be my biggest recommendation.
Thank you for your time, Trevor. This has been very informative.
Thank you, Monique.